I am so honored. Thank you, my dear friend Aaron, for this invitation. Actually, it was funny. We met last summer at the Unity People's Conference. Somewhere there were Mai Tais involved for some of, not me, and and pools and a cruise ship, and we were doing the Lord's work, I'm sure. And Aaron and I have mutual friends. We really hit it off, and she said, "You really should come to my church." She said, "Wait, I think you are coming to my church." But this is all planned. This day has been in the works for a year, and I'm so delighted to be here with you today. This weekend is huge for me. Dr. King is my spiritual hero and just the archetype of what a human being can accomplish when we allow God to move through us. So I chose the title, A Bigger Circle, for a couple of, actually there are three things that I'm going to share with you on it. Sometimes when I'm speaking in a new place, I want to tell you everything I know. So I'll try to rein that in a little bit, so I'll just tell you the best bits. How's that? But Dr. King knew the importance of evolution, of growing. He stood for social change. There's a famous quote where he says, it's moral and right for us to follow the laws when they're just. But it's equally moral to disobey peacefully an unjust law. Because he understood that our culture and our society and our species, our collective consciousness has to grow and evolve and become. And the civil rights movement was a huge and ongoing, a huge lesson for human beings to understand equality, unfairness, justice, and injustice. And he brought that to our awareness. I'm starting to give my tomorrow's talk today, so I'm going to stop right there. But I will be speaking more about Dr. King and the role of the prophet in our culture, and he absolutely was a prophet. But he expanded our circle, and that's what we're talking about today. I first got this idea when I first got to New Thought 21 years ago. My first teacher, Dr. Claudia Franklin, I'm one of those people, probably from my 12-step background, that I love when people teach from their own experience because then I believe it works. And so I do that a lot. I share and I teach from my own experience because this is the only laboratory I have to test spiritual principles. And so I don't do it because I want to talk about me. I want to share you the truth. I want to share with you something that I have tried and this has worked. So Dr. Claudia, Reverend Claudia, she talked about when she first got to this kind of spirituality, she actually came through the 12-step path too, and she said she had a daughter that was just going nuts with addiction, and it was like she's on her third divorce, I think, and her life was very not working very well. And she said, I had this circle of everything that was okay in my life, and it included my dog and my African violet. And I wasn't sure about the dog. And she said, I noticed as I began to do my recovery work, and she was a Science of Mind minister, and she said, as I began to do that, which is, a similar, a parallel path to unity, and she said, as I began to do this work and began to see and unravel and heal and forgive, the circle of okayness got bigger. Then I can include maybe my sister, and then before she knew it, she said that my circle got huge. And I love that. So there are three areas I'd like to speak to you today about enlarging your circle, drawing a bigger circle. The first is our relationship with others, that we begin to have a bigger circle of what is okay and acceptable and what can be within our field with others. And then I want to talk about the circle with ourselves. What can we integrate and own in our own lives? And then lastly, I want to talk to you about the circle of God. We all need a bigger God, and God is infinite, so that's okay. So this idea, as I said, I've been kind of on a circles thing for a while, and I came across a quote recently. It's attributed to a Native American proverb, and I'm always a little dubious of those. It just sounds a little, I don't know. It's wonderful. I'm not sure where it comes from. Someone made a circle to exclude me. I made a bigger circle to include us all. We're talking about our relationship with others. Have you ever been excluded? Has anyone ever drawn a circle and said, you are not here. You're not welcome here? This happened to many people in the LGBT community with their churches. There was a circle drawn and said, "You are not welcome here." And the response from many of my friends in the LGBT community has been to leave church completely with some anger and some bitterness. And then a few of us have found a way and found a church. The way I found New Thought Church is I was singing at a gay piano bar in Dallas, Texas, and a minister comes in looking for somebody to sing at his church. And I thought, what kind of a minister goes to a gay piano bar? And what kind of a church is this that they're inviting me to? And I thought, this may be my kind of church. And I sang at their church, and the check cashed, and that was 21 years ago. I never left. But what I've learned to do with others is when I'm excluded is to just draw a bigger circle that includes us all. Even though you may not think I'm in your circle, you're in mine. Recently, I was with my family of origin in Oklahoma. I come from a Pentecostal and Methodist background. My brother right now is preaching in his Pentecostal church. I don't know what my mom put in the oatmeal that her sons all are preaching on Sunday mornings in various places and with various messages. But I was with my Pentecostal family over the holidays, and we've learned to avoid certain topics in our conversations. But somehow we had sort of wandered into one of those topics a few weeks ago, and it was about generational poverty, the welfare state, and we really disagreed, my brother and I. And I felt, that anger kind of rising up within me, and I was like, he's wrong. And he also had some of this going on, and he's a Pentecostal preacher, so his voice gets bigger, and so I was hearing this, and every time I hear my brother preach, I just kind of want to laugh, because this is the guy that used to give me wedgies, and he's up there, so it's odd to hear him use this Jerry Falwell voice, but anyway, I digress. We're having this moment, and it's heated, and we're disagreeing, and I actually stood up. So I have a little bit of that in me too. And I stood, and I felt this anger and this exclusion and this oppositional energy, and I thought, I don't want to do this now. I had a moment, and this is what meditation has given me in my life. It gives me a moment in times like that before I get hooked and I'm off. I can go, stop. And I just stopped. And I sat down. And he continued for a little while, but because he wasn't playing against my energy, it settled down. But it was uncomfortable and it was awkward, and then we blessed the food and ate. But he came over to me, and he put his arms around me, and he said, Michael, if I knew how to fix it, I want you to know I would. And I felt this love, and I don't understand how it is that two men who love God so much and who are trying to make the world a better place can look at a situation and come with some completely opposite solutions. I don't understand. But I've drawn a bigger circle to include him. And in small ways, he has included me in his. Jesus was a non-dual teacher in a dualistic religion. I don't know if you know those terms, but dualism is this idea that there is the divine world and the human world are separate. Words like original sin, we're fallen, those are words that all the Abrahamic faiths, Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, they swim in those waters of dualism. However, all of those traditions have produced non-dualistic leaders and teachers, people who go, not so fast. The circle is bigger. We're all one. Unity, to my knowledge, and I've been researching this, unity is the only non-dual Christian tradition. There's a lineage, I know, it's pretty cool. There is a lineage of non-dualism, of mysticism in Christianity, but there has never been an organization, a group, a denomination gathered and focused on this idea that we have never been separate from God except for unity. And I'm so honored to be now stepping into that lineage. But Jesus knew that when we're judging others, when our circle is small and oppositional, it's not out there. A couple things. You remember the wonderful story of they brought the woman caught in sin. I always wondered, where was the dude? You know? It's like, what did they do with him? But they brought her and all this, and he drew in the sand. Then he said, remember the famous thing he said? He who is without sin, cast the first stone. And then in Matthew chapter 7, do not judge, or you too will be judged. For in the same way you judge others, you will be judged. And with the same measure you use, it will be measured to you. Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your neighbor's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own? How can you say to your brother, let me take that speck out of your eye, when all the time there is a plank in your own? You hypocrite, first take the plank out of your own eye, then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother. In psychology, they call this projection. Jesus, who I'm pretty sure was not a trained psychologist, but who lived in a non-dual state, who understood the interconnectedness of all life, and understood that when we're seeing something out there that we're against, it's coming from here. And so the second circle, which really is the first circle, that I would like us to begin to draw bigger, is around ourselves. What is it that we have disowned? What parts of ourselves have we cut off because we find it unacceptable? I have a little girl in my life. If I'd known we had a screen, I would have brought baby pictures, I promise. My best friend, Reverend Chris Terry, and her wife, they adopted this gorgeous little girl 2.5 years ago, and I was there the day after she was born. She was born in Austin, and she was early. She was 4 pounds. I'm holding her, and my friend Chris's wife said, we want you to be her daddy. And they said, we want her to have someone who is her dad. And I said, I don't know what that means, but yes. So I have this little girl. And they live in Dallas, so I only get to see her about once a month. But I was just there last weekend, and it's been an amazing journey for us. And I'm digressing, but it's my little girl. I have this picture of when she was about 6 months old, and I'm holding her, and she is fascinated, absolutely just transfixed by my left nostril. And she's looking and prodding and probing, and I'm looking at her, and our eyes are locked. And I look at this photograph, and the question came to me once. I thought, who is giving love and who is receiving love in that moment? And it's a ridiculous question. We are both in the state, in the field of love. And that moment has given me a new understanding for the laws of giving and receiving. I understand that they are not two things but one. But I digress. Last week, I was with my little 2.5-year-old, and I got a virus, as they are often. They're little carriers, little germ. There was and it was so much fun. It was great. It was really sweet when I was taking care of her because she was kind of feverish. She was so snuggly, and I thought it was great until 2 days later I got home and I had a fever. And so I knew I was contagious. I wasn't that sick, but I wasn't. So I stayed home as much as I could, and I prepared my talks, and I watched TV. And I don't watch that much TV, and I was fascinated. The infomercial has evolved. There is a series of infomercials that are, I hate my wrinkles, I hate my smile, and I hate my butt. And evidently, this is finding an audience. I was shocked. I didn't watch the infomercials. I was shocked by the titles when I was flipping through, and I thought, yeah, that's what we do, isn't it? We take parts of ourselves that are not the ideal that we think they ought to be, and we hate them. We oppose them. We cut them off from ourselves. What we're called to do, my brothers and my sisters, is to draw a bigger circle in our own lives. To be gentle with ourselves, to love those parts of ourselves that are unlovable. And when we can begin to accept who we are as we are, It opens the possibilities. Our self-acceptance is the doorway to transformation. Ask anyone who's ever been in a 12-step program. The first step is to admit that there's something going on that I can't handle. And it opens a doorway for us. So whatever that thing is in your life today that you are unwilling to own, accept, integrate in your life, I invite you to draw a circle that includes that today. Because when you do, you begin to see that God inhabits everything. And the thing that you thought was your stumbling block becomes your stepping stone. The thing that was standing in your way is the way. The thing that you knew was keeping you from your goal is the doorway into the life of your dreams. I received the call to ministry at 15. 4 years later, when I came out, I put it aside because there was no place for somebody like me to be a minister. And then I was singing in that bar, minding my own business. And I found a community that loved and accepted and affirmed me. And I was a part of that church in Dallas for 17 years. There's a great song, Leonard Cohen, I believe it is. The lyric is, "All my changes were there." That poor church in Dallas, oh my Lord. I talked to Howard Caesar, my boss now, and I'm a pretty good choir director too, Miss Stephanie. But I got there by making a lot of mistakes. That poor Dallas choir, I made so many mistakes with those poor people, but they loved me. And I was transformed. And then 10 years into that journey, they built a ministry school in our church. And my minister said, "Why don't you think about this?" And I said, "No." Nope, not going to do that. I left that behind. But there was a love that would not let me go. And the thing that I was sure had been my out from my call to ministry became the thing that gave me compassion and empathy and an understanding for the human condition and an understanding of the outcast and the excluded. It was the very thing that equipped me for what I'm doing today. And whatever yours is, whatever your excuse, your obstacle, your stumbling block, I'm here to remind you to draw a bigger circle, see it differently, and see yourself transformed. So last circle, I promise, the last circle. God. Emerson says that God is a circle whose circumference is nowhere and whose center is everywhere. Think on that. Infinite. Infinite. There's Noam Chomsky did a recent series of lectures in New York City, and I didn't read or attend the lectures or even watch them, but I read the review. I do that sometimes. And the review of the lecture said an interesting thing. His last lecture was on understanding. You know, our only relationship to reality is our understanding. It's what we understand about life, love, God, relationship, everything. It's what we understand. And so when we understand it, we think we got it. And it's a fallacy of human reasoning. We understand what we understand, and there is always more. Yeah, well... And so now that you're feeling all smug, now that you found unity, I'm here to tell you, your understanding of God must continue to evolve. You must begin to continue to push against those boundaries of what you think God is and isn't. And begin to expand into that space. What is that wonderful Rumi quote? Beyond the fields of right doing and wrong doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. We have to continue to expand. Oh, there's a great quote I love. Hafiz, another Sufi master, who says, "Every child has known God, not the God of names and not the God of don'ts, and not the God who has ever done anything weird, but the God who only knows 4 words and keeps repeating them, saying, 'Come dance with me.' Come dance. Our relationship with God is a dance of trust, of openness, of surrender. But if you still are holding on to that scorekeeping God, he's not into dancing so much, unless it's the right dance. Get a bigger God. The first time I was in a Unity church and heard someone pray Mother, Father, God, I was like, oh, that's really weird. I mean, I don't think God is about genitalia. I really don't. But it's like interesting that it was just so ingrained in me that God had to be a he. And believe me, I'm not afraid of the language of our history and our tradition. I will use the masculine pronoun to refer to God sometimes if it feels right. But I have learned that God is bigger than a gender. In the Ken Wilber in the Integral World, there's a teaching which I'll share with you briefly, which has been very useful to me, called the Three Faces of God. Do you know this? It comes from like the three parts of speech. The first person, that if I am a place of divine energy, I'm a release point and receiving point of God. I would never say I am God. I think that is a really misleading statement. What I would say instead is this: I am not all of God, but all that I am is God. Does that make sense? The second face of God is the thou presence, the you. It's the place. That's where we begin to have a relationship. This is the traditional understanding of Father, Mother God, Creator God. More about that in a moment. The third is the it, the impersonal presence of all that exists, will exist, or could exist. The everything, the ground of all being. Wilber says that most traditions embrace one or two of these faces of God and disfavor or exclude, remember our circles, the other one, or ones. In Western religion, the dualistic worldview generally only has this thou relationship. In the Eastern world, the Hinduism, Buddhism, they generally focus on the first and the third. There's one presence. There's all is Brahma, and everything arises and returns to Brahma. So that we get that's, and we, in unity, in new thought, again, I think we're at a special place in spiritual evolution. We can integrate all three. What a God we serve. What a God we live. What a God we experience. What a God we love. So I'm going to sing here in a second. I wasn't going to, but I thought, I can't not sing a song. But before I do that, I want to read you the lyrics to an old hymn by George Matheson. Sometimes in our new thought intellectualizing of concepts, we lose the sweetness of the thou relationship, the devotional path to God. And this was written in 1882 by a man in the Church of Scotland. George Matheson had attended his sister's wedding, and in his writing about this song and how he wrote it, he wouldn't say what happened, but something happened. Family gatherings, you know. He and his brother probably got in an argument about the welfare state. But he had a moment, something, and he said it brought him into such pain. And in very short order, this song came through. O love that will not let me go, I rest my weary soul in thee. I give thee back the life I owe, that in thine ocean depths its flow may richer, fuller be. O light that followest all my way, I yield my flickering torch to thee. My heart restores its borrowed ray, that in thy sunshine's blaze its days may brighter, fairer be. O joy that seekest me through pain, I cannot close my heart to thee. I trace the rainbow through the rain and feel the promise is not in vain, that morn shall tearless be. What he's saying is that it is in our separation, in our smallness, we think that my light is all the light I have. that we get small and afraid and against. But when we turn to this love that is the love of God and surrender our individuality into the oneness of all that is, we are fulfilled. It's a paradox. The I, the individualized I, is only fulfilled when it surrenders to the all. The last few years, there's been a movement to make Martin Luther King Day a day of service. So I leave you with this. Oh, love that will not let me go. I am one of many with just one life to live. The gifts I have, great and small, I give them all. I give. Simply, purely, I give. Here I am, a vessel to be used. Whatever Spirit needs of me, I will be, I will be, I will be. Here I stand. My heart is here to serve. Wherever love is leading me, I will go, I will go, I will go. With open heart, I love. With open mind, I know the truth within me. With opened eyes, I see the gift unfold. I give my open hand for you to hold. Here I am, a vessel to be used. Whatever Spirit needs of me, I will be, I will be, I will be. Use me, oh God, I stand for you, and here I'll abide as you show me. Show me all that I must do. Whatever Spirit needs of me, I will be, I will be. you.